The most indispensable thing that HR can do is cross-pollinate. Other departments can and do add value in various ways, but only HR can take the best ideas from across the company, synthesize them, and apply them throughout the organization. In this episode of HR Party of One, I'll explain how you can use cross-pollination to train managers to be better at recruiting, coaching, and compliance. By the end of the episode, you'll know how to train the best managers in the business. Today we'll discuss how HR can cross-pollinate and consolidate the best ideas within an organization, how to train managers to be better at recruiting, coaching, and compliance, and how to conduct ongoing manager training. Let's get started. Every day, HR is exposed to the best ideas within an organization. You're the only person in your company who works with managers, leadership, and even employees. Because you have access to so many different points of view, you can meet with a manager and say, "Hey, I saw that Jasmine was conducting one-on-ones with her employees, and it was a really effective way to increase employee satisfaction and performance. You should try it too." This is just a random example, but the point is that most people in your company aren't in this position. As a result, it's up to HR to take these ideas, consolidate them, and codify them for the rest of the people in your organization. This last part is key. If you as the HR Party of One can take the first step to writing down a great idea, you help get the ball rolling to document these best practices and processes. The best small and mid-sized organizations codify these tactics in two different resources, the Culture Guide and the Manager Manual. Let's briefly review each of these before moving forward. The Culture Guide. I always say that a culture guide is like an enhanced employee handbook. Instead of dusty old rules and regulations, it's a living, breathing document that details everything employees need to be successful at your organization. This includes the company's vision and mission, how employees are compensated, and how they can access their paycheck, and even how to turn on the printer. Believe me, that one is really important. The Manager Manual. On the other hand, a Manager Manual is a guidebook specifically tailored for management personnel in your organization. It includes tutorials for hiring, interviewing, onboarding, and terminating employees, as well as templates that your managers can use to communicate key details to employees and applicants. Both of these documents are essential to organizational success, but because each is a dynamic resource, they require HR's stewardship to stay relevant and useful. This is where cross-pollination also comes in handy. You may have used the best ideas to build or refresh your Culture Guide and Manager Manual, but each new idea presents a new opportunity to make your company's processes even stronger. Now that we're on the same page, let's shift gears and talk about how you can use these resources to train managers to be better managers. HR's approach to cross-pollination can help you train managers to be more effective recruiters and coaches. It can also ensure that your managers more closely follow the latest compliance rules and regulations. One note, while I've selected 3 ways in which you can cross-pollinate ideas to better train managers, there are a ton of other processes that HR can improve, including onboarding and offboarding. But now, let's dive into our main topics. Number 1, how to train managers to be better at recruiting. We've covered this topic from a variety of different perspectives in past HR Party of One episodes, from using an applicant tracking system to updating your company's career page. But we're talking about cross-pollinating ideas in this episode. The best way to share best practices among management is through role-playing interview scenarios. In Bernie Portal's Manager Manual, we've added instructions for conducting phone and face-to-face interviews. And while these details are great to have, your managers need practice to become interview experts. Consider conducting training sessions to ensure this is the case. Every few months, we gather our entire management team together to train. Their managers share tips, tricks, and other best practices regarding a variety of topics, including recruiting and interviewing. I can't tell you how many times we've hosted interview role plays between 2 managers and a great idea has come from it. Maybe it's starting each interview with some light small talk, or maybe it's learning the best way to respond to a certain question from an applicant. Either way, this exchange of ideas spurs innovation and empowers each manager to rethink their own approach. Number 2, how to train managers to be better at coaching. Managers aren't just responsible for hiring great candidates, they have to coach them too. At Bernie Portal, managers conduct one-on-one meetings with their direct report employees. During these meetings, the two team members discuss everything from performance to current projects and development. These conversations are cataloged in the performance management feature of our Bernie Portal HRS platform, which you can learn more about using the link in this episode description. Of course, one-on-one meetings also take practice. We also covered this topic during our manager training sessions, where, once again, managers role-play different scenarios with one another. This fosters great feedback and helps the entire group crowd-surf possible solutions for given situations. I'll share a handful of those scenarios in just a few minutes. Let's say that during one of these sessions, you've identified a great new tactic that managers should use in their one-on-one meetings. Maybe it's starting each meeting with a recap of the previous conversation. As HR, you should codify this best practice in your manager manual. That way, every new manager can see the rule when they join your organization, and current managers can review as a refresher. And finally, number 3, how to train managers to be better at compliance. This is another big one. Compliance is always changing, which means your managers need to be updated with the latest and greatest practices, no matter the issue. This too can be accomplished through role-play practice. For example, let's say your team has decided to terminate an employee who wasn't meeting their goals. We encourage your managers to work with their HR first by role-playing the conversation. By taking this approach, managers and HR can align and identify any potential risks associated with the termination and ensuing conversation. Then, after the conversation takes place, you can use the example in subsequent manager training sessions as a learning opportunity for the rest of the managers. Finally, once a best practice has been established, it's HR's role to update the manager manual according to the new rule. This can include a post-termination templated communication HR can send, and even a list of termination FAQs that managers can use to prepare for those conversations. I've mentioned conducting manager training throughout the episode, but what does that actually look like? Episodes number 47 and number 78 cover coaching managers and developing manager manuals, respectively, both of which can be found in the episode description. But let's spend some time right now covering how manager training should work. Have a dedicated training day. Since we host manager training 3 times a year, we dedicate an entire day to coaching managers. This provides a distraction-free zone where the entire management team can focus solely on improving their craft, reviewing and introducing best practices. Some people might be rusty, others might be new. Either way, it never hurts to review best practices, especially if you've made recent adjustments to the manager manual or culture guide. For example, during our past training days, we spent time developing delegating and recruiting skills, as well as coaching for improved work performance. Role-playing scenarios. As we've discussed throughout this episode, you should always spend time role-playing various manager-employee scenarios. This gives everyone a chance to sharpen their skills, and you can cross-pollinate new tactics to improve the organization's approach to things like recruiting and coaching. Some of the role plays we've covered in the past training days include a team member who wants to change their job, a team member who wants to change their compensation structure, a dissatisfied team member who's bringing down colleagues, and a team member is doing something out of line with the team's mission statement. The goal here is to identify new and compelling ways to address these situations. It's entirely possible that someone who's new to the management team comes up with a solution that's totally different and more effective than past solutions. That's good. That's why cross-pollination works. The team plan review. Another important component of manager training is to put everything in perspective. If your managers don't know how their performance impacts the organization's larger goals, how can you best expect them to perform their best? During these sessions, we typically invite the department heads to report on various parts of our business. They explain what's working, what isn't, and where we stand compared to our yearly goals. In essence, these sessions are great ways to reset and refocus our efforts. Managers can learn from one another and ask questions to department heads to find out how they can help the organization meet its goals. Other sessions. Obviously, not every company is structured the same way, so I can't tell you exactly how your manager training should look from start to finish. If you're watching right now, I'm sure you're thinking about a session that would be especially helpful for your team. Maybe it's an opportunity to write and review team mission statements. Maybe it's specific to how you pitch a certain product. Regardless, you should be willing to get creative with the manager training itineraries. Remember, if you coach your managers correctly, they'll be more effective members of the organization. This will make your job easier, your role more impactful, and the company more successful. One final plug. When we elevate a person to the management team, they're required to read a few essential books. These include Coaching for Improved Work Performance, The New Rational Manager, an updated edition for a new world, The 1-Minute Manager, Work Rules, and Inside the Tornado. We recommend you require your managers to do the same, but if you only have time for one, absolutely stick with Coaching for Improved Work Performance. All right, time for some homework. I want you to take a look at your current approach to training managers. Do you cross-pollinate ideas? If not, why not? Think about how you can make the changes necessary to ensure not only that you're encouraging cross-pollination, but that you're able to consolidate and codify these ideas. When you take on this challenge, you're adding value to your role and to your company. You'll have better managers who hire better, coach better, and handle compliance better. As a result, your organization will prosper in the short and long run, all because you understood that your role is as strategic as you make it.